Transgender violence. It is a very real problem, and it's getting worse. Jimmy Kimmel is back, or is he? And you will not believe this brat's destruction, all because they took his phone away. Wait till you see this video. Welcome to the Sheldon Show. Hello, that's me. Thanks for popping in. We appreciate it. Please hit that follow button. We are live on X and on Rumble. And wherever you choose to view us, no problem. Get involved. Take part in the chat, just like Danny did when she said, good rainy morning here. Hope everybody having a good morning so far. In Maryland, up in Connecticut, cloudy here, 1 hour sleep. 1 hour sleep? Come on, you sound like me. See if I make it through the show. It's night for this gal. Well, I hope so, and if not, be sure and watch the replay when you get some sleep. Oh, man. An hour. I've been doing that, by the way, for the past year over. Ever since the skin problem started, I can't sleep. I'm itching all the time, and I'll sleep for a couple of hours and then get up for an hour, sleep for another hour or two, get up all night long till finally about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I wake up and then I'm done. I'm just awake. So I watch Matt and Friends doing some gambling in Vegas and get on with my day. Wow. All right. So we got a lot going on, and that includes the evidence that continues to pile up in recent years about this propensity for people who claim to be transgender or those acting on their behalf to commit unbelievable, gruesome acts of violence and, in some cases, political violence, mostly. Most recently, of course, goes without saying, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The accused shooter, apparently a gay man living with his male roommate and lover, claiming to be transgender. Kirk's shooter appears to have been motivated in part by transgender ideology. Kirk answering a question about the dramatic increase in transgender identity mass shooters when he was shot. Now, just 2 weeks ago, before Kirk's assassination, another male claiming to be transgender shot a church full of praying children at the Communication Catholic School in Minneapolis, which is a similar story to another school shooting in Nashville, 2023. So many more stories. They keep piling up about these trans-identifying perpetrators committing violent crimes, and probably even more we don't know about, that the authorities have been covering up. With all this evidence stacking up, transgenderism is a terrorist death cult, and we need to treat it exactly the same way we would treat Al-Qaeda or ISIS. On Friday, new details emerged about another violent leftist, Nicole Rosk, would-be assassinator of Justice Brett Kavanaugh, now who identifies as a female named Sophie. Rosk also used Discord, same online platform used by Kirk's assassin. Reportedly didn't have to ask the name of his case, United States versus Nicholas Rask, changed to reflect the same Sophie. However, Rosk's federal public defender reportedly stated they would refer to Rosk as Sophie and with incorrect female pronouns out of respect, none of which he deserves. Why should the federal government bend over backwards to lend any credence to this psycho? Nevertheless, Rosk, who was arrested outside of Kavanaugh's house, several weapons, burglary tools, seems to be bringing his sissy slave or trans gamer girl online persona to legal proceedings. Government is just going to let it happen out of respect? What respect? You don't deserve any respect. The legal documentation offers a glimpse into Ross's alleged bloodthirstiness. Prosecutors say Ross not only wanted to assassinate Kavanaugh, but meticulously researched, planned, and attempted to assassinate at least one, but had stated a target of 3 sitting judges of the Supreme Court of the United States. Tracked down the addresses to what he believed to be 4 Supreme Court justices, brought an arsenal of weapons, tools, and flew across the country to carry out his plot. The defendant's explicit objective was to single-handedly alter the constitutional order for ideological ends. That's according to the U.S. Attorney. This new revelation about Ross and his transgender identity comes as the Trump admin is looking into ways to stop transgender violence, including a counterterrorism tools, preventing the mentally unstable group of people from purchasing firearms. They're looking for a 30-year sentence for this Ross moron. It's getting bad, my friends. It is getting bad. Unbelievable. Something's got to give. Keep your head on a swivel if you are a conservative or a Christian conservative. Be very, very careful. And I absolutely hate to have to say that, but I have to say that. We are a target, every one of us, big and small. Sad days. Trump has announced the FDA is going to change the Tylenol safety label. Now, it's actually acetaminophen, but that's basically what Tylenol is, and probably the most popular of all. And it is urging pregnant mothers not to take it to prevent autism risk in children. This is absolutely frightening story, but finally someone is admitting the problem. Trump urged pregnant women on Monday to stop taking Tylenol, saying studies have shown that taking the common painkiller is associated with autism in children. Trump told reporters, with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. Gave his opinion about pregnancy, women's health, vaccinations, drug safety, and autism. And he added, ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you have to, if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. Trump said that the only time pregnant women should ever take Tylenol, a common form of acetaminophen, is during a high-risk fever. Now, this new recommendation is flying in the face of a lot of physician groups who are saying the drugs, they've probably been paid to say it by the drug companies. Anyway, this drug's been on the market for 70 years. They say it's safe. 50% of the women reported taking the drug during pregnancy because it's long been regarded as one of the safest analgesics. Trump admin, however, is growing to a very large body of research that suggests a connection between autism in children and the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy. Mount Sinai, Harvard University, Bastions. Study published in August reviewing the existing literature concluded a large majority of studies on the topic found autism diagnosis was more likely for expectant moms who took acetaminophen. Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy also recommending children who are exhibiting signs of autism take leucovorin, which helps correct folate deficiencies. Low levels of folate in pregnant moms have been associated with the neurological disorders in children, according to some studies. Now, it is not a cure. HHS said the drug may lead to speech improvements for children with autism. But the FBI is going to be updating the label on acetaminophen to relay the risk in pregnancy and sending out a notice to all physicians with this information. They'll be notifying physicians against the use of acetaminophen effective immediately. Trump said, noting that kids should also not be given the drug. Kenvue, who is the manufacturer of Tylenol, probably the biggest label on acetaminophen. The facts are that over a decade of rigorous research endorsed by leading medical pros and global health regulations confirms no credible evidence linking acetaminophen to autism. We stand with many public health and medical pros who have reviewed the science and agree we'll continue to explore all options to protect the health interests of American women and children. In the meantime, you heard it from our president himself and the head of HHS. If you are a pregnant mother, do not take acetaminophen, Tylenol. Look, there are other pain relievers. You have a choice. Just don't take acetaminophen. Danny, see that crap right there? That's why I didn't take anything for migraines during my pregnancy. Grandma, who's always telling me listen to the doctor, told me it's safe. But no, it's still pharmaceutical. My grandma will never learn. Doctors do not know it all and will prescribe anything that helps them get a payoff. Cannot say that I disagree, my friend. I wish I could, but I can't. At least something is being done, you know? Had this been any other administration, God forbid a Democratic one, none of this would have happened. None of it. I'm loving it. There is a network of broadcast stations. Each radio, television station these days normally is not independent. The days of independent radio and television are pretty much gone, except for maybe a few mom and pop operations in very small towns. Most are owned by broadcast conglomerates, including one called Sinclair, that owns a huge number of television broadcast stations. Well, Jimmy Kimmel is coming back to ABC, but not on Sinclair stations. They are refusing to air Jimmy Kimmel Live on its ABC affiliates. Instead, they're going to put news programming on. Sinclair Group is a media group that includes 38 ABC stations in U.S. markets. They've announced they are not going to air Jimmy Kimmel Live, despite this show being reinstated by Disney, which kind of figures. Statement released Monday night, in fact, just last night. Beginning Tuesday night, Sinclair will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across our ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Discussions with ABC are ongoing as we evaluate the show's potential return. Last week, ABC pulled the show indefinitely, but that indefinitely didn't last very long. Unbelievable. Sinclair will not lift the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live on our stations until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Sinclair also called upon Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to Kirk's family. They're saying in a statement, furthermore, we asked Mr. Kimmel to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. Regardless of ABC's plans for the future of the program, Sinclair intends not to return Jimmy Kimmel Live to our air. Thank you, Sinclair. Somebody is taking a stand in the right direction. Good on you. Good on you. You know what else would be good on you? A nice hot cup of Blackout coffee. Blackout coffee, that's it. Use the link in our show notes to get yourself a bag of the best coffee on the planet. They are an American company that supports our values, our American way of life. They deal with local co-ops and American farmers to grow the best premium beans you'll find, and they roast them only after you order. Ship them out within 48 hours, and you got a bag of the best coffee on the planet right at your doorstep. And now, if you don't have a grinder, you can't do the whole grind thing, not a problem. They also offer ground coffee, so they will grind your beans for you. Special brew, brutal awakening, morning reaper, pitch black espresso, my favorite, drink it all the time. They have instant, pods, cold brew, whole bunch of cool merch over there also. And don't forget all these flavored coffees, which are absolutely incredible. Cinnamon French toast, blueberry crumble, chocolate cherry, climax. They are so good. Use the link in our show notes. Pick up a single bag, grab yourself a bag of Blackout coffee, beans or ground, and stay free, stay awake, not woke with Blackout coffee. Always full flavored and never bitter. Strong coffee that is just the best coffee you have ever had. I promise you, you'll be back for more. Use the link in our show notes and use the code J20 at checkout for 20% off your first order. J20 at Blackout Coffee. Thank you, John and the gang over there at Blackout Coffee. We appreciate your being a part of the program here. All right. This one is... Michigan, what the hell? Michigan, the Secretary of State just approved this license plate number. Take a look. For those of you listening to our podcast only, this license plate in Michigan just been approved by the Secretary of State, which says 86 Trump. You remember Comey and his little shells he supposedly found on the beach, saying 8647? That's what this crap is all about. And believe it or not, it's been approved. It's already an annoying talking point. We all need to turn down the temperature. We? Who is we, liberal America? We're not shooting people with whom we disagree politically. You are. We're not saying anything inflammatory. You are. The assassination of Charlie, September 10th, attempted assassinations on Donald Trump, those are all on you. Tell you people You need to get a grip. Anything from us conservatives basically is self-defense at this point. That is fact. Also, we know it's a lie. Everything you domestic terrorists say is a fabrication. Because in Michigan, now someone is driving around with a license tag that says 86 Trump. 86 is a common expression used in restaurants for something is off the menu, it's gone. Jocelyn Benson is the Secretary of State moron who actually approved that license plate. The day Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the day Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson lectured her online followers about, quote, the need to turn down the hateful rhetoric and move forward toward a renewed commitment to civility. Really? Friday was posted this Michigan license plate, 86 Trump. So the plate violates the department's actual policies. Secretary of State will not issue a configuration of letters, numbers, or letters and numbers that carries a connotation that is profane or obscene, is a swear word or depiction of a swear word, is sexually explicit or graphic, is excretory related, is used to describe the intimate body parts or genitals, alcohol use, drugs, drug culture, or drug use, to describe illegal activities or illegal substances, substantially interferes with plate identification for law enforcement, used to disparage or promote or condone hate or violence directed at any type of business, group, or persons, a foreign word falling into these categories, or that conflicts with the regular license plate numbering system. This plate violates the department's own rules. And Benson approved it. Turn down the temperature, she said. You first, you murdering traitors. Unfreaking believable that license plate is running around on the streets of Michigan. Again, I read you the regulations just now. Clear violation of why that shouldn't be. The Democratic Party mayoral candidate here was seen at King's rally holding a sign 8647. Man. And they're so ballsy, they think they can just continue to get away with this. Oh, here's a classic. An article in the Washington Post written by a D.C. resident who claims the city is safe, but the writer remains anonymous over concerns for their personal safety. He writes an article saying how safe his city is in D.C., but I can't tell you my name because I'm afraid for my personal safety. Trump, of course, has taken federal control of Washington, D.C. deployed the National Guard. Some say the nation's capital is fine. No need for that kind of a move. One resident who spoke to the Washington Post wished to remain anonymous for their comment, calling it a safe city. But don't print my name. Washington Post report called Trump Says Crime in D.C. Out of Control, Here's What the Data Shows, displays a graph of violent crime rate, but only reaching back to the year 2019, before the COVID-19 pandemic, and paints a picture that the nation's capital does not have a large crime problem. In taking comments from residents in D.C., one resident told the Washington Post, "This is a safe city, but overhearing and witnessing gang threats and then watching the camera footage of the thuggery is very disturbing," said one resident. The article then ironically added the Washington, D.C. resident was speaking on the condition of anonymity over concerns of personal safety. This is real, folks. This is real. Oh, my city's safe. What a crock. What an absolute crock. Story out of Canada, quite disturbing and quite insane. A Canadian Indigenous man, which would be similar to a Native American, has gotten less jail time because he is an Indigenous Canadian for assaulting a 12-year-old girl. Canada seems to be the place for an increasing number of stories about man's inhumanity to man, or in this case, man's inhumanity to a 12-year-old girl. National Post of Canada reporting a Calgary man was convicted of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl on repeated occasions, who terrorized her, received a lighter prison sentence than he would have because he's a politically protected class. He's Indigenous. According to the Post, a Calgary judge knocked 2 years off a 10-year sentence that he would have given to this man who victimized the 12-year-old girl he met on Instagram when he was 25. The Post reported the man had Cree heritage on his mother's side. And it gets worse. The man sexually assaulted and threatened to kill the victim multiple times in 2023. Other charges the perpetrator faced include leading police on a wild chase, making threats to both the victim and her mother after he was arrested. In Canada, GLADU factors force judges to consider the individual circumstances of the accused to determine a fit and fair sentence. In cases where those charged with a crime identify as Indigenous, the judge has to apply what are called GLADU principles. That includes considerations as the charge changes of colonization for the offenders, their families, their communities, because of their Indigenous status. What kind of challenges, you ask, do these Indigenous people face? Racism, loss of language, removal from land, Indian residential schools, and foster care? GLADU factors originated as a result of the 1990 case called GLADU, where the Supreme Court of Canada decided that colonization creates challenges for Indigenous people, and as such, they are more likely to populate Canada's prison system. And to rectify that, the Liberals in charge of the Great White North came up with this brilliant idea to give their hardened criminals less jail time. Problem solved. The parents of this poor innocent 12-year-old girl, who is now 14, now have to consider, when their daughter turns 22 at the latest, her victimizer will be a free man once again. Presumably totally rehabilitated. Oh yeah. Maybe he'll join a book club or the Boy Scouts. The judge, in reducing the sentence, made sure to remind the public the offender has, at various points in his life, gone hungry and homeless. He's undereducated, had addiction issues. As a child, he was placed in foster care where he was sexually abused and separated from his siblings. The judge is more concerned with the sexual abuse history of this violent criminal standing in front of him than he is with the victim. Judge, if you go on light of what you describe as a damaged man, excusing a lot of his criminal motivations, you really think in 8 short years is going to make him any more or less likely to hurt people once he's free again? A lot of other sordid details in this case that range from the man placing a makeshift bomb on the car of the victim's mother, the man learning of the young girl's actual age and yet continued to see her. Now, to be sure, you do not have to go as far as Canada to find these kind of disgusting crimes. Plenty of just like it and worse here in the U.S., particularly blue cities, I might add. Sometimes you do have to go there if you really want to see what the future holds. I say it all the time. The reason we will cover certain stories from the UK, the EU, Asia, Canada, Mexico, South America, is because it is just simply a precursor of what is eventually going to wind up splatting its fat, ugly ass here. And this woke justice system in America is not prepared to deal with these kind of people. You want to see the Democrats go down in defeat in their next year's midterms? Now is the time to join the battle. Make America great again. You hear me? Without you, America can lose. There is absolutely no doubt about it. So if you've just renewed your faith, perhaps because of all that happened with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, renew your faith in America too, because that is as important. We need every one of your help to make this work. Absolutely insane. 8 ridiculous years. Another story in the Charlie Kirk realm. You've seen the things about Starbucks not printing the labels and putting Charlie's favorite Starbucks drink. Well, it just continues, and in some cases gets worse. Customer orders a Charlie Kirk Starbucks drink. finds a disturbing message, and guess what? That employee is now unemployed. I love it. An Ohio woman ordered a Charlie Kirk go-to Starbucks drink on Sunday evening. Was startled to find a hate message written on the cup. Autumn Perkins lives in Middletown, Ohio, visited a Starbucks location inside Kroger and run by Kroger in order to order the Mint Majesty with 2 honeys. When she got her order, she was shocked to see that an employee had written racist fave drink on the side of the cup. She says, and she's right, it is time to stop this nonsense. You want to see? There it is, the actual cup. After speaking to the manager, she learned the employee admitted to writing the hateful message and was subsequently fired. You see also here, the double cup? Was she thinking what? Maybe she wouldn't notice? Look at that, racist favorite drink. Unbelievable. The victim in this case said, I feel like Charlie stood for respect. We don't have to agree on everything. We can disagree on a lot of things, but we respect each other. We can't communicate and grow if we're disrespecting each other. Starbucks said, writing this on a cup is unacceptable, and we have clear policies that prohibit negative messages to help preserve a welcoming environment. The Starbucks location is licensed and operated by Kroger, and we understand that this associate was terminated by Kroger. And in fact, Kroger confirmed that firing. The behavior does not reflect Kroger's values, the representative said. Perkins, the victim here, said she often visits Starbucks while traveling because it's readily available, and she no longer plans to do so. Good on you. I can tell you I have not had a Starbucks in probably a decade or more, and never will again. Have I ever told you what a fan I have always been my whole life of Katharine Hepburn? Katharine Hepburn, I would have married that woman. She was, her whole life, the most amazing woman on the planet. An incredible actress, a very funny lady, a lady who stood her ground, a lady who wore pants when women in Hollywood were not supposed to wear pants. It was rumored that she was a lesbian. No one ever confirmed those rumors. But now the California cabin where Katharine Hepburn hid away is for sale. Now, if you imagine a California cabin that once was owned and occupied by Katharine Hepburn, wouldn't you think we're talking maybe tens of millions of dollars? Guess what? You can pick it up for a paltry $1.39 million. What? I could almost afford, no, I can't. Not in a billion years. But that's it. Beverly Hills, Katharine Hepburn would rendezvous there with the wealthy New York socialite Laura Harding, on sale for $1.39 million. That's a nothing. Harding, known as Hollywood starlet's best friend, long-standing rumors that the two women were linked romantically. The cabin listed in Benedict Canyon, first reported by the Daily Mail. The listing agents are Carl Gambino and Cassie Levine of the Gambino Group at Compass. And this is a beautiful cabin. Look at that. I mean, it's nothing extraordinary. Wait till you see the inside. But it is absolutely gorgeous. Look at this little sun deck here. There is Catherine. Let's scroll down here. Look at that. That is the epitome of warm and cozy. Man, that looks nice. Look at that lamp. Crazy. Lighted living space. Oh, look at that. My grandma used to have a stove like that, a stove and oven. That is nuts. Look at that tabletop. Absolutely gorgeous. Hepburn, whose 60-year career made one of Hollywood's most loving leading ladies. I, in particular, was completely in love with her. I had 3 brothers, she said, and I just shaved my head and thought I was a boy. She denied rumors of her gay romance back in her 1991 memoirs, Me, but gossip about the pair persists to this day. Look at that fireplace. Look at this room in the back here. Man, that is just so welcoming. Here's a bedroom. Absolutely beautiful. What views out the windows. Gorgeous. Oh, look at that old clawfoot tub. Oh, man, that's gorgeous. Wow. Absolutely beautiful. Insane. Didn't she have a home here in Connecticut on the water, says Marilyn. Yes, indeed. In fact, just a quick personal story. As you know, like I said, my whole life I have been in love with Katharine Hepburn. I actually once got the chance to meet her, and it never happened. One of the biggest disappointments of my life. I was working in between radio jobs at a car dealership. I used to sell Subarus. I know, imagine me as a car salesman. I did really well, though. For a time, I held the record on the East Coast of Subaru in the U.S. for the highest profit on a single car sale. That is another story for another day. Anyway, our finance manager at the time had a friend who had a friend that was very close with Katharine Hepburn, and she had a place down along the coast of Connecticut. He arranged for me to actually get the chance to meet Katharine Hepburn at her home, just for a few minutes to say hello, me to tell her what an enormous fan I was of her career and her life. 2 days before it was supposed to happen, and me, you can imagine, as nervous as I could possibly be, got a phone call from my friend, the finance manager, who said she had to cancel, and she was very sorry. But what happened was, sadly, she was constantly getting threats against her life. She wasn't particularly political. I mean, she was a bit, but, nothing like we have the wackos today. But she was getting some threats against her life, and so she basically had canceled any private meetings she had scheduled for a month or so. And I sadly made it on that list of being canceled. I was that close. Would have been an absolute dream come true. Wow. All right. Let me show you what happens when you have a brat as a kid. And I don't mean just any brat. This hardworking mother is in absolute tears breakdown mode after her son completely destroys every room in her house. I got the video coming up in a minute. You won't believe it. He caused over $70,000 worth of damage. Why? Because he misbehaved and they took his phone away. These are the kids we're coddling today. $70,000 worth of damage because they took his phone away. Take a listen. Take a look.
Look here.
Broken counter, tipped over refrigerator. Oh my God. Broken windows. That's just the living room. Bathroom destroyed. Look at this. Holy crap. One kid did this.
Take the baby bag.
Holes in the walls. Broken mirrors. Cracked toilet smashed.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Unbelievable. 12 years old. $70,000 worth of damage. Because she took his phone away for misbehaving. We live in awful times, friends. Awful, awful times. Dang. Okay. Not a great way to end, but that's how it's going to end for today. Thank you for popping by. I appreciate the time. Be sure and hit the follow button. Be sure and head over to one of our great sponsors, Patriot Mobile. Save yourself some money and get your first month free. Use the links in our show notes. Blackout Coffee, of course, all those great folks who are there sponsoring this show. We really appreciate you being here. And you're going over there and making a purchase. All right? All right. That's it. We're done. We will see you tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the Jay Sheldon Show. Thanks for popping by, everybody.